Hey folks, gonna record this intro real quick. It's getting late. I've been putting this off for a while. This is I don't even know what episode it is, but it's the one with Eddie Dixon. About 2 weeks ago, me and Eddie sat down and had a little conversation, and he played a couple songs off his new album. He did Buzzard Code and the title track song Coinstar. So I've been talking about it in a couple of the last podcasts I did. And if you want to hear it, you can go to Eddie Dixon's Bandcamp, which if you go to the podcast page at Coastal Noise, you can just click on his name or the album and it'll take you to his Bandcamp and you can check out the album. It's a great album. And it was really cool to have him play some acoustic versions of the songs. So hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy the music. Hope you enjoy the conversation. If you want to hear more podcasts, go to the podcast page at coastalnoise.com. Check out some of the recent ones we did with comedian Bill Engvall, Jeff Pilson of Foreigner, and all the other stuff that's out there. I don't know if this... I'm hoping I'm going to get this episode out this week. If it ain't June 1st already, I'll be playing June 1st, Greenhouse on Porter in Ocean Springs, 629, this coming Friday, June 1st. So if I release it then, if I release it before then, you're welcome to come. Show notes will be at stefanlawsonmusic.com. Okay. Let's kick it off. Coastal Noise, Eddie Dixon, Coinstar, and Life Rants.
Listo. I need to make a phone call. I need some paper, some words for a note. I'd like to breathe once more while she is sleeping in a dream and will not know. Won't you hold my buzzard coat? Can't say I was too young, can't say. But sure I wanted more. I know we've long to travel before my body boxes up and crumbles down. just a moment before I'm a cold fish, citizen on the ground. I know I will miss the thunder when I am beyond its rider land it's called. I stood out in the rain and under my bloody protest, just being mine and warm. Won't you hold my buzzard coat? I can't say I was too young, you can say. Sure, I wanted more. Let me be. Let me be. See, that felt good. Speedcast.
Speedcast 101.
Born Cocoa Beach, Florida. Conceived in a motel in Mobile. What?
And so how did that affect you growing up? Tell us why you're sad.
I don't remember a lot. I do have a weird memory of as a 5-year-old, like enjoying the idea of being tied up. That's kind of weird for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
I actually was younger than that. I was like 3.
And that has manifested itself in your photography and music and such.
It definitely hasn't manifested. I don't like that shit when it's in the bedroom. So I don't know where that went, but it was certainly a thing for me when I was 3. Like watching a Cowboy and Indian, any kind of movie like that, and they were torturing the cowboy. Oh, I wanted to be the cowboy.
Did you see Tomahawk? What is it?
The most recent one? Hostiles?
No.
Bone Tomahawk.
Tomahawk.
With Tommy something.
Kurt Russell, I think, in it, and what's his face?
I did see Hostiles.
Pretty brutal.
And I was less pleased with that than I wanted to be.
That's the new Western with Christian Bale?
Yeah. And it's just like, it was pretty sure it was a very important film, but it wasn't. It was just like hackneyed, really. I mean, it's Oscar bait. Like, it's got all the fucking notes for Oscar bait, but it's not at all deep. I maybe Bone Tomahawk's more the thing.
I like Bone Tomahawk a lot. It had some friggin' shock factor to it.
Have you ever read, when we talked about Cormac McCarthy, did you ever read Blood Meridian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Heavy shit.
Someone makes
you kind of have to digest it 2 or 3 times before. Yeah. I think you get the full scope.
That would make that movie, I think, would get closer to the brutality of what can actually go on, or probably went on in the more depraved parts of, because with all these like sweethearted people that were going out in wagon trains, there was also just some twisted. Anytime you believe that other people are animals, you can do just about anything. So however many like sweethearted families got murdered, there was probably a few that got through there and did some murdering of their own.
Where is Cormac McCarthy these days with he's supposed to have a book called The Passenger or something like that. That's supposed to be on the horizon.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's exciting if he's doing it. Yeah. He hangs out with a bunch of
scientists. Yeah, you told me about he at Santa Fe University or something like that.
Yep. Like a bunch of physicists and quantum physicists, and I'm down with that. Like if you're doing I would almost rather, I don't know, like being a fellow musician when you meet a musician is kind of an entree into talking, but that doesn't always mean you're going to be interested in talking to another musician.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know a lot of physicists, so I'm screwed on that front.
Let's talk about your new album here, Coinstar.
Yes.
The recording process for that, how was that different from the albums you've done in the past?
It was quicker, and I limited the palette. Every other album I've ever done, I can't help myself from like experimenting, and I like this one. I only allowed myself like guitar, organ, bass, drums, hardly anything else, and it made it go quick, and I think it made an easily digestible thing, which I hadn't done ever before. Although Skirmisher earlier was probably as close as I got, but that went all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a distilled version. And if I can get simpler, it's going to get even better. Like if I can just calm my musical brain down and only do what the song requires, it'll be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And
it went quick. I started it like, it was when I got off the rig. I was working on the boat. And when I got off, I had a little bit of a lag time before I had that next job. Going back working for the van company, and I ended up having a few weeks, and I did all the tracking during that time, all the drums, all the everything else, and then whittled away at it. But I like quick. I still haven't done what I want to do, which is like almost live or live. Just get in there with enough people. I haven't had a steady band in so long, but I want to do that at some point. Like actually get a studio. And hopefully I'm doing that soon. I might be producing somebody, which is going to be like 7-8 studio musicians in a room with a bunch of really nice stuff. And so, but I'd like to do that for my thing at some point, like rehearse up a band and actually never actually done it except for the very first band I had when I went to Chicago. We recorded most of that live in a room. Although I didn't do the vocals at the same time because I forget how it happened, but we just couldn't work out the logistics of it. We were working on an ADAT machine and just first time being around any of that stuff. But instead I went in and cheerleaded, like the way that we recorded it. I didn't want it to be, if they were just playing by themselves and I'm sitting there by the board, it could easily end up pretty flat. So I went out in the room and to keep track of where the song was, and I sort of conducted and jumped around. So if it was a quieter album, you probably would have heard me thumping around on the floor, but it's kind of a rocking thing. So, But I want to do that again sometime soon. I thought that was going to be this time, but circumstances conspired.
now that Coinstar is out there, what's the next move from there?
I do have maybe some production work coming up, and hopefully that happens, and maybe a wee bit of touring, not with my thing, but with the thing I'm producing. And then I think now it's looking like I might actually move to New Orleans, which I've been playing with for a long time, and or move within striking range of New Orleans. Like I'm not sure I can handle the nightlife in New Orleans at close range, not at this age and not with my proclivities. So I'll park somewhere on the outskirts and poke in for gigs and stuff. But that's a recent development. Like that was just pretty much the last couple of days coming to that. So
Yeah.
But I do have songs in the pipeline too for my buddy Adam Fitz. He's in Pittsburgh, and there were songs that were left over from when we were in a band together. And I'm producing a pretty heavily pop album for him in a way that he hasn't ever had the freedom to do before, because he's like, we've always been at someone else's beck and call. So I'm going to do that for him too. That won't take long. That's an EP. And so going to do that stuff and send things back and forth, because he's still in Pittsburgh and I'm still here. But I have songs. I want to jump right back into it. Like I would love to have a band, and I would love to just play as much as possible. I've always been, the most I've played when I was up and running was usually a couple times a month. And that I realized over time I hated it because if it goes good, you're excited, and then the next day is a big bummer because you're like, wow, it's going to be a fucking month before I do that again. And that was a blast. And if it goes badly, you don't have, like a touring band, you're going to have the next night, or you're going to have the next night after next, and you can just go in there and fix the problems and stuff. But I never got that busy with booking any of the things I had put together, and neither did the things I was playing as a sideman for. And so it'd always be like a big build up, and then you have a show, and if it sucks, you're screwed. And if it was great, you're screwed, or whatever. So I would love to have a band and actually, but, I figure I might, try to bat around doing some solo stuff because I don't think anybody should jump in with you unless you've proven that you can, keep yourself busy by yourself. Like if they can see that you're willing and able to do things. I love this. I want to get this on recording somewhere. And since we're talking, the recording thing, which I've always been way better at than, at least as far as that was the thing I was always more drawn to. When I'd get on stage, I'm super happy, especially with my first band. It was a dance band. It was a blast. But live music is sports. And recording is like painting. See what I'm saying? Like, cause you do have to work up those muscles and it takes a certain amount of effort to, and it's always going to be imperfect and sort of adrenalined up and everything else. So it's a different thing. It's like a contact deal, even though you're not smacking the people in the audience, hopefully, but you are trying to cram something in their head in a finite amount of time in a certain building. But with recording, you set up the picture and then they can slowly work themselves into it, or as the case may be, not. And so that's I'm going to just copyright that right now. Live is sports, recording is painting, or another sort of any of the pictorial arts,
So on this recording, can you talk a little bit about the themes and the subjects that you touched upon in Coinstar?
Yeah. I love now that I'm older, this stuff bugged me when I was young. When I was your age, when I was, or younger, actually, when I was first starting to write legit songs that weren't just copying people I liked, I would hear people like, and I'm still not huge into like the super political people like Billy Bragg or, I'm blanking, but super Macons and like, super political stuff used to drive me crazy. I just wanted it to be either like opaque lyrics and poetic or whatever, or I wanted it to be personal. I didn't like the whole political angle. But then getting around into the 40s, age-wise, a lot of that, the personal stuff starts to kind of damp down. And then you get a different perspective from just having been around for long enough. And you become less concerned about the personal and about like necessarily like stringing poetry together or whatever. I still love that part of it. I still love like my favorite, I've told you recently that my favorite thing I've run into recently, which somehow I missed the dude, was Robin Hitchcock. And that's like it's the only thing that makes me happy nowadays. But it's all this. It ended up, there's a lot of songs that all ended up being about being poor. And I've never been destitute, but we've never been in a position. I've definitely never, as I've been what passes for an adult with me, I've never had like stable money where I didn't have to worry about. I was always going on either just credit or just not going, like just having, I've always lived in, poor neighborhoods, poor houses, like, not even close to like, I've never had a SNAP card or like a, food stamps or anything like that, but I've always been like just scraping some shitty job, make rent, make whatever. And then, you want a guitar, put it on a credit card you'll never pay off and live like that. But the, working where I've been working for the past couple of years is driving around people going to dialysis, poor people, like for Medicare, and seeing the way these folks live and how much, like, I feel a lot more kinship to them than I do to some of the sort of, especially over in Ocean Springs or like some of the more upper crusty places. I meet these folks and I'm just like, I don't know what to talk to you about. Like, I have a lot more in common with these folks that are admittedly way worse off than me. It's not like I've ever been as poor as they are, but somehow we connect more than I do to, I just can't be around these, like certain amounts of privilege just drives me crazy. And I know I've got it, but being aware of it, I can't be around people that aren't aware of it. So, Coinstar, which we're going to include that in the thing today or whatever, but the repeating like dollar store, Coinstar, layaway, like I was thinking the genesis of that is like the idea that there are people that have never, like the idea of layaway, which already sounds a little bit weird because nowadays they've got so many, like, if you've got even less than deadly credit, they'll usually give you some kind of store credit card or something, maybe. But in general, like there are still people that, they'll go and they'll put away, here's $25 on that $200 thing, or like, and it's still, that stuff still happens. And there's a huge portion of this country that has never seen that. That idea is just foreign to them. The idea of a dollar store, other than they might stop by if they're on vacation or something. But that whole thing is foreign. Whereas anybody I know, like, if you can, you're going to get some groceries from there, maybe some of your drugs, because they're cheaper than like the generics at this place is going to be $2 cheaper than whatever. And, the Coinstar machine, like, or the whole idea of like rolling coins to go like, or scooping through your couch or just anything like that. There are people that have never seen that, and in Chicago, I went, shopping at one of the nicer stores with a girlfriend at the time, and she was there to get business suits for work. And can you hand me the jug?
Yeah.
And I was watching, I was watching a woman essentially in her pajamas, like some Ugg boots and pajamas, whatever. But obviously like this had, sunglasses on her head that were probably worth more than most of what I had on at the time, or had in my pockets, my phone, everything, my wallet. And I realized, like, we were in there and I was looking around like it was a foreign country, because it was like, it was one of these fancy Michigan Avenue places. And I realized, like, oh, she's just buying socks. Like for her, the place that you go to get your undies or your socks or your whatever is this place. This isn't like, and there's like tourists coming in gawking at like, oh, look at how fancy this all is. And this woman's down there just like, oh, you know, in her jammies. And I remember when I was working as an Uber driver for a minute, I dropped off a lady at a pretty frou-frou, you know, bougie high rise. And she'd been really hard to talk to the whole time, and I couldn't quite figure it out. She was dressed kind of rich, but she was coming from work, so I thought maybe. But then as we're getting close to her building, I didn't have an exact address, so I was like, where along here are we going to be stopping? She's like, oh, just park up there by that garbage truck or whatever that is. And I was like, what? And I was looking, and I realized she meant there was a postal truck, like a postal carrier vehicle, you know, roll up, back, and whatever. And I realized she doesn't know that that's how it works. She's probably always lived somewhere where she gets her mail brought up by the person downstairs. You know, they'll have the concierge brings all your mail up, puts it on your doorstep or whatever, or you pick it up from downstairs. Like the idea that there was this truck from the U.S. Postal Service that's given, like, she had no idea. She'd never run to meet the post person or whatever. Like, and that disconnect, and it partially it was a sad thing. Like, really, am I going to make it through my entire life and be bumping along the bottom or whatever? And admittedly, a large part of that's slack. Like, I've had opportunities that I haven't capitalized on, but some of these other folks that got way more gumption than I do and are still poor, still struggling or whatever. And it's like, it's really hard to get out of that. You know, there's a lot of myth making in America about class mobility, like the idea you can get out of it, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and things like that. You might be able to move within your class a little bit higher. You know, you might be, hey, I have a car and cable TV, but the idea of going from dollar store, Coinstar, whatever, to I don't have to worry about money, like that just doesn't happen as much as we like to tell ourselves it does. And there's White Man Plays the Indian off the album talks about the don't think about it too much. You know, you'll screw up the myth making machinery if you think about it too much, because we build, like, we're so about heroes, and then every time, this will probably be audible on the thing if I'm sucking on this, right?
Whatever.
But, you know, listening to Clint Eastwood talk shit about poor folks and how everybody thinks they're entitled or whatever, and Bill Cosby, timely and newsy Bill Cosby, who was on, I think at the time or a little bit before Hannibal Buress actually called him out, which started this whole thing. He was on a tour with somebody going around telling like black men to pull up their pants and take care of their kids and all this other. And some of that is just straight bullshit. Like, the actual stats about how many black men are in their kids' lives when they're not incarcerated for some bullshit. Like, there would probably be a lot more black men all up in their kids' life if they hadn't gotten pinched for some small amount of marijuana or whatever the fuck, and then put away for 3 times as long as the equivalent white teenager or whatever. So he was going around lecturing black people on how to live, black men specifically, like, and that's part of what pissed Hannibal Buress off. He's like, shut up, you know, you're going around, you're drugging people. And it's a lot of the same shit. Like, I mention, or at least one line in that song mentions, 50-gallon drums of invisible drugs, because even I fell for like the Lance Armstrong thing. Like, no, I'm just an exceptional individual. And I have not been cheating. I haven't done any of this stuff. And he was like on every, Live Strong bracelets, and it's all over the TV and like all this other stuff. And he was shitting on his teammates that had already kind of gotten sick of being liars and had already fessed up. And he was shitting on them about it. And they're like, we're done with you. like you did it too. You did, whatever. And then it turns out, of course he did. And there was an enormous apparatus to get it done. Like they were basically swapping out his entire, supply of blood every so often. And we simultaneously look down our nose at people that are actually are living purposeful and honorable lives, but they're poor and they haven't quite, figured out the code to get out of that, but they're living a fine life, taking care of their stuff, trying to have fun, trying to whatever. And and then we simultaneously raise up these people that they're always going to fail us. They're never going to be that hero. It's just not so much of a, just the idea that we still talk about American exceptionalism when it's pretty demonstrable that we're somewhere in the middling. We're definitely an outlier as far as the things we do and what we think of ourselves. But as far as being tip of the top, whatever, other than military power, most of the things we're lagging in. Boy, this all probably figure out something musical. It's a lot of politics, but that's the album. Ready? Scratch off tickets, you scratch off clothes, and you should start to call it ugly to his face before you get too old. Lay away, everything's a brass ring, everything's a sweepstakes card. If I get to heaven, can I finally see a doctor, please, and lay down light? Leave the maniac hustle to the bustling bees and Coinstar. Everything's a brass ring, everything's a robot on Mars. Take turns shaking up the bottle till the cops draw down. Danny, you left wrong. My ghost brother boxing with the paperwork town. Stay in line. Everything's a brass ring. Everything is gated and wired. One day is a prayer you don't need. You set up nice, and this year is the song the people sing. Hope something breaks right in dollar store. Everything this was me and Adam have been going back and forth. He sends me and I send him at the beginning of the month. We'll send a song title to each other. And the challenge is we each have to write the other person's song. Like, so if I send him something, he has to write whatever that title is, write a song about it. And he's killing it. He's like at this, he's hitting his stride on kind of an awesome way. Which I had a period like that a while back when I had a lot of free time and I was working at some pizza place and I had a lot of free time and I had a ukulele sitting in the car so I could just sit there and write all day long. And that's when most everything I've written for the past 3 albums came at least somewhat in there. Although Coinstar actually has mostly new stuff. But, and one of the things he sent me was my very first, title that he sent me was, Before There Was a Name for It, which I think he was aiming at sort of a romantic thing or something like that. And, I ended up writing a song all about how, like the first lyrics, before there was a name for it, you were scared of her. Talking about just like the huge apparatus that's been put together to keep women under control because they're incredibly powerful beings and we've been frightened for a long damn time. So like they make babies, and we tried, like there was the whole idea of, men tried to think of so many ways that no, it's the stuff I do. That's what makes the baby. Like the idea of the homunculus. Have you ever heard of that? The idea that there's a little tiny little human in the sperm and that she's the vessel and we send the human in there and then the human grows because we so much wanted to be like the powerful part of it, and they can take, I think we've always known that, they got a higher pain threshold. They've got like we've always been intimidated. I just don't think there's ever been a time that we weren't, and the only people that weren't were just unaware of the fact that the society around them was intimidated by these women. So it's a boogie song about feminist ideas. The chorus is, does she make you feel little as you are? Go and tell your senator that you're going to have some scars. And I'm going to record that and put that out because it's a blast. It's fun sounding, like it's a rock song. And I also think right now, like some of the only people I hear talking sense half the time is like the women, and watching female senators or female representatives just have to completely smack down some idiot pasty dude that's trying to mansplain something to them or like trying to act as if they're gonna like the recent Nikki Haley thing where he's like, well, maybe she misremembered maybe she was confused and she straight up just said, all due respect, I don't get confused, and I'm not necessarily on her side. She's got a bunch of foul ideas too, but like watching her just straight up like pull off a belt and smack him upside the head was pleasing. What are you looking at on the notes there? What are we talking about?
Oh, just looking around, just, want to be prepared when the time comes.
I think we should report back later because this is my first time trying to really promote something in a while. And things are so different and messed up about how people consume things and the attention span. So I'm paying really close attention to the way that this is getting to folks. I know I've made something that's at least, it's the most accessible thing I've ever done. And I'm watching how people consume it or don't consume it. And like we've talked about before, the idea that you're competing with Game of Thrones and 1,000 bingeable TV shows and all this other stuff. And I did notice I made that video that I don't know if I told you this. It actually got
Well, we'll explain to people what that video is. For what?
It's for White Man Plays the Indian, and which is that song just in general about how like, and there's plenty in the video. There's plenty pictures of these idiots. Although I mean they were getting a paycheck, but like they put even Leonard Nimoy at one point played an Indian. So there's these pictures of these white folks that they would dress up like an Indian because they probably couldn't bear to go to a reservation and try to find somebody that would actually act. And why would they? It's like, it's just a bunch of white people playing in the sandbox. And so just the idea that there was a whole string of these idiotic movies where you had, you know, like Geronimo played by some white dude and Cleopatra, you know, Elizabeth. I love Elizabeth Taylor, like good stuff. That's fine. Elizabeth Taylor's awesome. But that's not what Cleopatra looked like. It just can't possibly be what Cleopatra looked like. And we like that whole whitewashy business that went on forever. And like, you know, the white Jesus, like surfer Jesus, like pasty, blonde haired, radiant. No. He was, you know, that was going to be a surly fella coming from where he came from and spending his lifetime in the desert or near the desert. That's not what he looked like. I'm sorry. He doesn't look, you know, like Leif Erikson or one of the Bee Gees. I don't think Jesus looked like the Bee Gees. I know that's controversial, but
isn't the argument that he could do miracles so he could
Yeah,
naturally...
yeah, he just decided to bleach himself.
He wanted to look like an Abercrombie and Finch model, don't you think?
Yeah, he was
one of us.
He was way ahead of the curve
We are
on
him.
the Michael Jackson thing. He just like he didn't have to use any lightning creams or anything. He's just like, I want to be a white man. You know, this is all great, but I got a feeling there's going to be some people they're more northern, and they're going to be a blast. And they're going to run shit for a long, long time.
Sometimes I feel like the major religions, like even at the top, like if they like just started releasing like new additions to things and just started shipping them out through the world, and you get it, and like Jesus wearing a leather jacket.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
well, what is? No. This is what we.
That's
this
him
is
now.
how we.
Like operating systems, religious operating systems. This is Christianity 11.1. You know, we've added some. He's always giving a thumbs up. That's cool. He never got nailed to the cross. He just sort of hung around the cross for a little bit.
He saw a giant emoji in the sky. We're talking to God.
He leaned on the cross for a little bit.
God's voice is Marlon Brando's.
There's a great place called Boomtown on the way south from here. Like if you're going, I think it's either, I always forget the town it's in, but it's going south through Illinois. You run into it, and it's a huge amount of fireworks. And then they also have just tchotchkes, like just a biblical flood of tchotchkes.
Define tchotchkes.
Just little like trinkets, and there's jewelry and snow globes and T-shirts and raccoon hats and like novelty hats and trucker stuff like CBs, just everything. It's like an acre of just craziness on there. You know, wood sculptures, like driftwood sculptures and all this stuff. And I found it a crucifix where they forgot to crucify Jesus. He was just standing on there was like a little platform, and he was just standing there, sort of like, hey, you know, arms out, buddy Jesus, sort of like, hey, come on, bring it in, let's hug it. And I when I brought it up to the girl at the counter, I was like, yeah, this one's broke. She's like, what? I was like, well, he's not even nailed to the thing. He's just standing. She was cracking up. She didn't quite get that I was being an asshole, but like was laughing about it. She's like, well, maybe he's praising himself. I was like, well, yeah, that could be it. But he's like, he was just hanging out. There was like a little diving board on the cross, and he was just hanging out, like, you know. Yeah, surfer Jesus. That's what it was.
Yep.
But so, yeah, so that video, there's a bunch of that. There's a bunch of things about just racist sexist shit, which is one of my least favorite things in the world. And so there's, Confederate flags, and it's all psychedelic as hell. But I tried to promote it. Like I tried to actually, and if I thought about it for a minute, I probably could have seen this coming. But I tried to promote it, and there's just one detail towards the end of the video that involves middle fingers. And that alone just totally disqualified it. They wouldn't let me promote it. Like, they didn't take it down. They didn't block anything, blah, blah, blah. But they would not let me like pay to spread it to more people because it was classified as shocking. And I'm pretty sure that's the only thing I could think of that could possibly have caused that. Or although a really prominent lyric in it is all the blue-eyed devils sing that heaven is American. And, with a good solid winkety wink and whatever. So like maybe they thought blue-eyed devils was shocking, although it's not like I was just reading off Farrakhan quotes or something. It was whatever, but I think it was the middle fingers. But, so I'm going to be trying all these. I plan on making a video for every song because I've been having a blast doing that. And I'm watching really closely to see what takes and what doesn't. And like, how do you even get somebody's attention? There are people I really, really like and they do stuff and I forget about it after a minute. Joe Henry, he did an album this last year. I don't know that I've put it on twice. I listened to it, and there's a certain thing, like when someone gets to a point in their career where they're starting to make incredibly competent albums that just are not changing from what they've been doing the past couple. There's no longer like an innovation flash. It's just they've gotten really good at what they do. So part of it is that, but like things hit my screen, my windscreen, and then they go and I don't remember. And whether or not that's a medical deformity or if it's something about the way that the rapidity with which we consume things, that even I'm trying to calm down and pay attention to things and I still have trouble. Like people that do really good things that I really like and I just don't listen, My friend I was talking to you about, Sonia, like she wrote a novel and it was I got 15 pages in and it's funny. She writes amazing and I just stopped. I just forgot about it. And I don't think it's just because I'm some sort of half-baked crispy critter or something. I think the sheer amount of stuff coming at us information-wise, even if you're trying to guard against it, does something to your attention span.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get a camper.
Maybe.
Go park somewhere.
Maybe.
Get the hell out
Send
of
it direct to the people.
Yes.
Just throw it out the window as you're passing by. Hit people in the forehead.
There is
Here's
like a good solid part of me that's just like, because I've been having difficulties since I've been down here interacting with most of the populace other than most of the white populace. Like, however horrible that sounds. Because I'm just a little too rubbed raw by the current like xenophobia and bullshit that when I can just pretty much guess that most of the people I'm going to run into down here at the store or whatever, if I got started talking to them within a few minutes, they're going to say something that's going to make me angry. And so, but there's all sorts of stuff I do love about being down here, being off in the swamps or like, I do love when Southern people break out of the Southern mindset. I love those folks, and some of the artistic community down here, like Bay St. Louis. They got all these Heidi Petrie and all these other folks that just doing amazing stuff, and they're cool as hell. And somehow they slot into this place, and it makes sense. They don't seem like they're directly in opposition to it at all times, which I can't help that feeling every time I go out. But the idea of the trailer or the tent or the whatever the hell, and just getting away, it does appeal to me in a way that it never did before. Just being older and like 17 years in Chicago sort of scraped the tops of the nerves off, so they're all tingly. And so like a big city, I'm not sure I want to do that. But this place drives me nuts because of some of the racist BS. So it might be somewhere on a compound with a, stockpile of guns in a bunker or something.
It's a good way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, man, running low on time here, so in closing, Speedcast, we did it, we done it, and we recorded some good tunes too. So, but in closing, is there anything, anywhere you want to direct the ADD culture to that maybe there's somebody out there who has heard what
the album,
heard what they heard and they
the
like
album
it.
is streamable and buyable. And I may not get paid a lot when you stream it, but I do get paid eventually at some point. I hear tell. But definitely Eddie Dixon Music on Bandcamp, or I have a website, Eddie Dixon Music, that has a lot of the lyrics up. I was working on getting the Coinstar lyrics up, and I thought they actually were done. I need to just go through there and publish that page because I've got them all up. And I will be Eddie Dixon Music on YouTube. I'm going to be putting up cheaply made but interesting videos for all the stuff. I finally found a dancer for my one idea, so I'm collaborating with a dancer for one of them. Hopefully she can do it. And then some of the other stuff, just using a really cheap iPhone or iPad things, and using them in a way they weren't meant to be used. So I figured out some fun things to do as far as that. So there'll be videos, and sometime this summer I'm going to have some live shows here. Even if I have to just break out, borrow some money I don't have and just pay some ringers that I love, like some of these players around here that I know are great, and just pay them and have a few shows because I miss playing with the band or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
cool, man. Well, thanks for
and also I have a sexy webcam.
Do you?
No, I don't. Good. But I did talk over with Elizabeth the idea that I was going to start one in the sort of fan club for it. It was going to be called All Access Chihuahua. So if we can make that happen, I'm going to make it happen. Never again, but then again, now you're letting your heart out to run into walls. Oh, Charlie Brown girl, please think it over. Your love is not a Super Bowl. Hey.
Thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to hear more from Coastal Noise, go subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. You can put a little auto download on so that you can catch whatever the latest episodes are. Be sure to go like the Coastal Noise Facebook page and follow on different media outlets. Of course, as always, if you want to help the show grow, please leave some comments, feedback, share an episode. It all goes to help the machine move forward. Thanks for listening again. See you next time.
Oh, God damn it. That was going.
It was almost there.